You know, the it was strange. When I was a little kid, and I guess a lot of people who know me when I was younger, my nickname was Goldie. Everyone called me Goldie, and I didn't know why. For a while, I thought it was because I was light skinned, and I used to wear a lot of gold jewelry. But what I was told was that when I was a little kid, I had a fascination with the movie The Mac. And that's who I was. I was the Mac. I had a certain way with the ladies. If you let my mom tell it, I never forget. I was in high school, and this girl had brought some girl to the house or whatever. I think we were getting ready to go out to a party, and my mom was there. And I introduced her to my mom, and my mom pulled that girl aside, and she was like, "Baby, I don't know why you with my son. You know he's a whore, right?"
Oh, mama, mama.
Yeah, this for real, mom. That's what we doing. But the wonderful thing about that was, that whole Goldie and the Mac thing kicked in. I got to tell my mom later, yeah, that didn't go how you thought it was gonna go. She's like, your mama know that you a whore?
Uh,
I tell no lies. Hello, Governor. This is retired Steve, new from the Ville, and as you can see, I have the wonderful, the talented Centel with us.
yeah, what's going on, man? Normally I'd be like, hey, it's about this, that, the third, but you still got me cracking up over the Goldie story, brother. That's a good one, man. Yeah. But y'all know what it is. What's good?
And as you can see, we are doing another joint deep dive, and we're going to talk about our exploration to the themes and tropes behind one of our latest movie reviews, Black Dynamite, featuring Michael Jai White. So we're just going to talk about Blaxploitation movies in general, and really what happened to black cinema. So I know that a few weeks ago we watched Blazing Saddles, 1974. Cleavon Little as the lead, and you're talking about 1974, a time that black people weren't the lead of major Hollywood studio movies like that. Now we do understand that the movie was written mostly, 80% by Richard Pryor with Mel Brooks, and was supposed to star Richard Pryor. But the studio thought that he was too edgy, that he was just too much. And we're talking about 1974, 1973 Richard Pryor. I mean, he ain't even, like, he's not even out there with the cocaine and setting himself on fire. Like, he was tame compared to what came later, but the studio thought he was too much. He was going to be too controversial, so they cast Cleavon Little. But out of the 60s and definitely through the 70s, we had the Blaxploitation movie period where black people got to make their own stamp in their own way through cinema in Hollywood. But was that for the good or the detriment of us? And I guess my other question behind that would be, what happened to that? What happened to us making our way? Did it morph? Did it turn into something else? Are we still making our way? Are we still waiting on handouts and trying to get parts in major movies? Like, what happened to our cinema?
Okay.
And I'll pass it to you, sir.
Hey, this is a very, very fascinating topic, because as much as we love cinema, it's always warming to know that you can see your own face and your own culture and the thing that you love, right? And I think, you know, the 60s, especially the 60s, was such a volatile era of our culture kind of being able to move forward and grab things and then putting our imprint on it. You know, it's a lot of gatekeeping that was going on in Hollywood during that time. And one of the big ones is just, it's not like today where you can hop on your phone, make a video, upload it, and then it's easy to go. Getting equipment, getting the cost for film, getting locations, all of this was a very huge, monumental thing to overcome. The gatekeepers had a very small amount of those assets that they weren't really willing to share with anybody. So you kind of had to know a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy in order to even get access to this stuff. You know, there's a really good movie called Sweet Badass Song, I think that was the name of it, with Melvin Van Peebles, who was one of the bigger pioneers of Blaxploitation, and he talks about what it is that he had to go through just to get the movie going. And there was such a need for our voice to kind of be heard, especially with the civil rights movement. We're seeing folks like Nikki Giovanni hitting the scene, you know, expressing herself. Music is jumping out, expressing ourselves. So we got literature, we got speakers. The next big thing is movies, right? Like the cinematic screen, in order to say this voice. And the thing about these Blaxploitation films is that they all kind of have like a singular kind of consciousness. How do you survive? How do you beat the man? How to make money? How to be free? You know, those are kind of like some of the basic foundations and the elements of that. What's fascinating is how that message is conveyed, because like you said, some people love Blaxploitation films, other folks hate them. Some people thought they were detriment to the movement because of the things that they talked about. Other folks thought it was a good way to actually talk to the people in their own terms, in their own way, because there was a lot of miscommunication in the civil rights movement, considering that there was an echelon or a subgroup of black culture that could have been considered to be hoity-toity, mightier than thou, little highbrow, and not being able to actually talk to someone, to talk to the masses. Whereas a lot of these directors and these writers of these Blaxploitations came from the muck, came from the dirt, came from the spot that everybody else came from, and they're telling the story
they got it out the mud.
Yeah, they got it out the mud, you know? So there was like a disconnect in a lot of that. And this was an avenue to be like, yeah, that's cool and all that, you know, everybody came together in NAACP in these big churches and some of these black banks and everything else that came together to try to push the movement in their own way with their own agenda. Because make no mistake, there was a lot of agendas in the civil rights movement. And then there's the artists who see it how they see it. So we got a chance to not just read about it and not just hear about it in music, but to actually see moving pictures. This is a medium that is very convincing. It's a very convincing medium. That's why Hollywood is so powerful, or was so powerful back in the day, because it stimulates your mind, your eyes, and your ears, and it forces you to sit down and pay attention and get a chance to listen to these stories. I know I'm kind of like going like all over the place, but it's I kind of wanted to kind of like set the stage as to why this thing happened and why it maybe have a better understanding as to why it seemingly disappeared. So let me let go of the microphone for a little bit and see what you're thinking regarding all that.
Well, no, you said some things that were real interesting. You know, like for one, like when you made the point about how difficult it was to get equipment, how difficult it was to get film. It's crazy how everything reminds me of something else. It reminded me of another movie that I watched a long time ago, Bowfinger, with Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy. And you know, even though the lead is Steve Martin, and it's a terrible movie from 1999. It was during that period where Eddie was just like, hey, you know, did the check clear. But in that, you know, he was an independent filmmaker and producer, and he made these terrible movies, but he had to know somebody who knew somebody to get him on the lot, and he would borrow, you know, the cameras, the crane, you know, he would take, you know, when they shot film, because they were using real film, like they had, I don't know, extra rolls of like film that they didn't use for a picture. So he would get all of that extra rolls to make his movie or whatever. And kind of that spirit of getting it out of the mud and doing everything. That's what it reminds me of back in the 70s. Again, Eddie Murphy made a wonderful kind of a telling of really Rudy Ray Moore's story. And it's called, My Name is Dolomite. And I don't know if it's Amazon or Netflix or who put it out, but, a couple years ago, 2022, 2023, something like that. But also, again, telling of the story of the guerrilla filmmaking that they were doing to get the story made. And, it was kind of for real, fly by the seat of your pants. Just listen, I just wrote this scene 12 minutes ago on a napkin. Let's shoot it. It's kind of that kind of thing. And then when you made a point about the hoity-toity, the first thing that came to my mind is, did you mean like the Sidney Poitiers and the Harry Belafontes and the Dorothy Dangerses, the ones who, because the gatekeepers, they let a few of us through, and they're like, look, see, we're inclusive. We included you people. We let one of you in. So, the first Oscar to a black person was, the lady who played the maid in Gone with the Wind. Mm-hmm. And it's just like kind of the same thing. And if you look back throughout history, like, people are going to watch what they're going to watch. And Hollywood has always had a problem with representation. And most cultural groups are going to watch things from their cultural group, things that they understand, because there are cultural differences. However, there are things that are very universal that go across, I don't care what culture you're from, you understand love, you understand fear, you understand, horror. There's a number of things that we all understand, doesn't matter what background you come from. But I think it's a huge, huge reason why Black Panther was a monumental hit. Mm-hmm. When we had been hearing for years that a black lead in a major blockbuster movie would not work because it didn't play well internationally. You couldn't sell a black lead in China is what we were told. And even though America's the market you push towards, if you're gonna release a major Hollywood movie, you have to go internationally. China has 1 billion people. Yes, we want all 1 billion of them to buy a ticket. We know we'll get our money back and then some. Because to the studios, that's what's about, the bottom line. But they didn't feel that we fit the bottom line. And that's not just us, the Latino community, I don't want to say just the Asian community, because I know that also includes, like people from the Pan-Pacific and things like that or whatever. But was it Crazy Rich Asians? Mm-hmm. Was a huge movie for them because they came out and supported a movie where they got the representation, they got to see themselves on screen. And it's the same for a lot of cultures, but Blaxploitation, we had a lot of damaging to the movement, because I know Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, a lot of them were at the forefront of the civil rights movement in the 60s. Mm-hmm. So they felt that Blaxploitation movies damaged the fight for equality and justice.
But did it? That's my question. And here's a humble moment for me. I am a huge fan of, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. Medea and them.
Tyler Perry?
I'm a huge fan of Tyler Perry as a businessman.
Yes.
As a businessman. I am not a fan of him as a creator of content, as a director and a writer. I certainly respect his hustle. It's unblemished as far as I'm concerned. I think he's the tip of the spear when it comes to high level producers pushing black cinema. But I'm not a fan of his content at all. If anything, I feel that it could be detrimental to the cause as well. And which is interesting because there's a lot of ways that you could compare some of the movies that he makes. Some people call them like the Chitlin Circuit films and Blaxploitation films. And even though I feel that they can be damaging to the community because there's some undertones that are being said that I may not necessarily agree with, there is a huge, large majority of our culture that thinks differently. And they're like, this is our voice. He's saying what we're thinking. And I'm glad that it's being said. And I respect that. Just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean that I don't respect it. I do respect it. I feel that I could be included in that hoity-toity idea of highbrow cinematic thinking when it comes to black voices. I'm a modern-day version of like Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier, which could be a compliment or an insult depending on which side you want to put the pendulum on. So I'm very judgmental when it comes to that kind of content. Just like I am sure people of that time period felt about Blaxploitation films. I get that. I can understand why there is a line kind of drawn in the sand. It's like, come on, man. Like, how are we supposed to get ahead? If we got Black Samson out here doing all these things in Dolomite, rhyming and shooting cops, and Cotton controls Harlem, doing all of these things. Like, it could be kind of like counter to the narrative. I understand that. So I ask yourself again, was Blaxploitation detrimental to the cause? Is Tyler Perry detrimental to the cause?
Well, see, that's an excellent point, and I'm glad that you brought up Tyler Perry, because I definitely was going to bring him up. All right, so for anyone who's uninitiated, which anyone who watches the channel, you wouldn't be. So Tyler Perry, allegedly was, on his last $5 or whatever, he took whatever his last little money, rented out a theater, and did basically a one-person play, a Medea one-person play, where he got all this wisdom or whatever from like his grandmother or something like that. And that's basically what he put on the play up there. And the last one he was ever going to do, allegedly, he was homeless, living out of his car, and it hit. It became a huge hit. And he began to put on more and more plays. He was writing more scripts. He was touring around the country. It became a thing. And then it eventually morphed into movies. I have seen some of the Tyler Perry plays. And they are very stereotypical for the Black experience. It's just like if you're Black and someone tell you they've never been to a family reunion barbecue, you look at them like, are you Black? If they tell you, well, I don't know how to play spades, and I don't know how to play Uno, you're like, you are getting dangerously close to revoking your Black card. It's about to, next thing you're gonna tell me you don't drink Kool-Aid or something, So. And I get it. Like, Tyler Perry's movies, to me, and kind of what you were saying, it makes movies to the low-hanging fruit. It makes movies for the lowest common denominator. It is the easiest tropes and stereotypes that you can get in Black culture, and that's what we're making movies about. And we're gonna keep playing that up, and it's 100 baby mamas, and and some abusive dude, and he's on drugs, he's drinking, and he don't want to have a job. And I think part of it too is age. As I've grown older and matured, and listen, it's not like we don't see it, everyone. Yes, we know. We're in the matrix right now, and they don't want this information to come out. This is the man. The man is trying to stop us, but he can't stop us. Power to the people. Nah, there's a weird glitch on the screen. There's like it's an electrical storm going on here, and listen, we've done everything we have to do, but you know what? For you, the show must go on. So we go on. I don't know. I think the strange thing about Tyler Perry is, as a businessman, he has made some brilliant moves with doing more with what he's been given. And I think I agree with you now, even though I have seen a couple of Tyler Perry movies. You know, my ex-wife, my kids, they liked them or whatever, and I saw one that was actually kind of funny. Tyler Perry's Medea's Boo movie, like a Halloween movie. That was actually kind of funny. But Tyler Perry, not only in what he's done business-wise, listen, he's been given the keys to the kingdom. You know, for a while, we had our whoever you ask, and again, lowest common denominator, our own TV station. We had BET. And Robert Johnson was running that. You know, you had the classic BET programs. But at some point, I don't know, the numbers started to dip, people not watching or whatever, and he ended up selling out his shares. He's just like, listen, I've had enough. I've been trying to, you know, maybe he was, you know, magnanimous and I'm trying to do this for my people, or maybe he was just chasing the money or whatever, who knows. But he sold out to Viacom. And Viacom owned a lot of other things. They own, you know, so I don't know, CBS or Paramount. I know that they owned MTV and VH1 at the time. And BET became, slowly, but became the black version of MTV or VH1, mostly VH1, because one of the first things they did was took away music. Just like MTV was actually called music television. It took away the music. And they started putting in a bunch of shows, and VH1 and BET started giving you almost like reality TV. They gave you just trash. But then a few years back, they said, you know what? The move is to go streaming, and we're going to do BET Plus. But BET Plus, they almost handed the entire thing over to Tyler Perry. He runs BET Plus. Like, so he got a corporate gig. He's running all of BET Plus, and they gave him, they're like, here's a perfect vehicle to start BET Plus. He trotted out, I don't know, like 7 shows that were all Tyler Perry shows. Like, so is he detrimental? Because why would they give him the keys? Or is it because people who don't look like us and don't care about us was like, here you go. I mean, it's kind of like the record industry. Like, there used to be songs, records, groups that spoke to the heart of the people.
Right.
And now it's twerk something. You know, it's all you're going to get, twerk something. Just let me out. For real? What is he doing? Like, and that's by a dude. Like, it's, what?
Yeah. There's I think there's something to integration. There's a very distinct line in the culture, pre-segregation and post-segregation. Excuse me, pre-post. Sorry. And a lot of blaxploitation films happened before segregation happened, before separate but equal.
I mean integration.
Integration. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. You know what I'm talking about. And I guess the heart of the matter is, before integration, black culture had to rely on itself. Black community had to rely on itself because there was no other resources in order to help facilitate that. So nobody was sharing. White people just weren't sharing it. So we kind of had to rely on ourselves. After integration, things changed. There became like this idea of like the white man's water being cold, or living in the suburbs of the white man is better than living in your neighborhood. And there was like this mass exodus of the community, and we're still suffering from that to this day. Our sense of community has deteriorated, and I feel that is probably one of the contributing factors to the end of the blaxploitation movement. And it wasn't like you weren't going to see a blaxploitation film at like the regular local cinema where they were playing Gone with the Wind. You know, they were played in hood theaters. You know, they were passed around and played in secret kind of place. You could only kind of like see it in the neighborhood. And once that resources of eyes and people coming together, communing together in order to make this happen kind of evaporated, it feels to me that's when the Blaxploitation kind of movement kind of shifted, and then it became the only way you can get in is through these gatekeepers instead of creating and forcing a way in order to kind of like get this narrative out. There is a bit of a comparison, a way where it's kind of like similar to what's going on with BET as well. BET at the time was, when it first started, was kind of like Forrest Bias. It was like a FUBU of TV stations, and then once it became the Viacom, then you kind of had to come like hat in hand a little bit. It's kind of like beg for, kind of like you had to ask permission, kind of like for shows. But then you have some creators like Tyler Perry who was able to be like, okay, well, I'll do that. Let me employ our own people, our own staff, our own crew. But it makes you wonder, it's like, is that really helpful? Because the message that you're putting out isn't necessarily advancing the people, it's placating stereotypes and pushing something negative to the masses. I feel like when we have control and we can kind of control our own narrative, magic kind of like pops out. But when things are kind of like being dangled in front of us by, let's just call it what it is, by white media, things seem kind of twisted and contorted and not as real. You may feel some kind of way about Blaxploitation being hokey. Maybe the stories don't sit well, and the 3-part act isn't exactly the way it needs to be, and the camera and the angles aren't shot the way it is. But it's pure to the culture. It is the voice. Like, people, I think there's a lot of comparisons that can be done with like hip hop as well. You know, when hip hop was ours before it became mainstream, was it as clean as it is today with some of the overprocessing of the sounds and the way things? Probably not, but it was ours. It was pure. You know, we loved it completely. We understood. We had a conversation regarding, you know, the intellectual types of lyrics, of lyricism that spoke to uplifting and talking about the community and what's going on, to all of a sudden that sudden shift. And that's kind of like when it started going mainstream. The same thing's happening with television. You know, you're seeing it on these 3 different, we just got done talking about movies, we just got done talking about music, and we just got done talking about television. And kind of like one of the deciding factors in all of that is leaving the community and then going after that carrot that's being dangled out by white media. It shifts and changes the narrative, and it doesn't feel the same. I don't know if you've ever seen a Blaxploitation film, and I challenge you to go out and watch them. There's a bunch of them. There's a lot of them. And okay, I promise you, you're gonna chuckle.
Let's give them some ones that maybe they should watch. I mean, there's plenty. If you type in Blaxploitation or whatever, there's plenty that you should watch. But let's at least try to point them in the direction. I already gave you one. I gave you the Mac.
Shaft is the next one that comes to me.
And the Mac also with a Richard Pryor is in the Mac as well too.
Yeah,
how good that is. Shaft with Richard Roundtree.
Yeah, Richard Roundtree.
Superfly.
Definitely Superfly. Oh my gosh, what's her name?
And we're talking about the old one. I mean, the newer one with
not the one with Sam Jackson.
No, you're talking about Shaft. I was talking about Superfly. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. On Grownish. I've known about him since he was on the show called Eureka. I can't not think of his.
I can't think of his name either. Holly, now that's
why. Any other time I'd be able to remember his name. However, so the older Superfly was fantastic. The updated one is actually decent. But Coffee Brown.
Yes.
You cannot forget the fantastic Miss Pam Grier.
Ooh, Foxy Brown.
Foxy Brown.
Yeah,
Foxy Brown and Coffee.
Coffee, both of them.
Yeah,
both of them.
That's right. You see how I put them together?
Yeah.
It's so good. I put them together.
Yeah, I mean, and she was, I think, to me, probably the more known black actress as compared to other ones that were out at that time. Because like if you don't think she was a hit, ask your granddad about Pam Grier.
Listen.
Ask your grandpappy. She would ask your daddy.
Yeah.
Yo, there'll be a pause. Let me see another big one that I've been seeing come back and forth is Truck Turner with Isaac Hayes, right? I think it was Isaac Hayes, yeah. An old girl that played Uhura in Star Trek. I forgot her name.
Michelle Nichols.
Michelle Nichols, yo, she was a madam in Truck Turner, and I promise you, she's not trying to go to a galaxy far, far away. She's trying to get these hoes in line.
Yeah,
it's a totally different
great
look.
scene of her I saw online where Ho started talking back. She slapped the fire out of her. Like that's like, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It was a blaxploitation film where it was the first interracial kiss, and that was done by Jim Brown, if I remember right. Jim Brown was the one who did it. I forgot the name of it, but it was a blaxploitation film.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
You got I had to look it up. Trevor Jackson's who I was talking about in the newer Superfly.
Okay.
I was gonna say there was definitely Isaac Hayes. Jim Brown, Fred the Hammer Williamson.
Yup.
Black Caesar.
Yup. Rudy Raymore.
Rudy Raymore, of course, Dolomite.
Richard Pryor was a big part of the blaxploitation film, and he was probably one of the more popular names at the time too. And he still kind of like came out of his element and was speaking to the neighborhood. And it was like, I don't have to do all this hoity-toity stuff. You know, I can come down here and and sell these pictures with y'all as well.
What is the name of
Uptown Saturday Night is I think Sidney Poitier was in that too. It was Sidney Poitier,
Bill Cosby.
Golly, was Harry Belafonte there as well? Maybe not. But I know Sidney and Bill Cosby were in it. So even Sidney came kind of like off of his perch and came back down to the neighborhood and was like,
Sidney Poitier, Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor, Calvin Lockhart, Harry Belafonte.
Yeah, I thought Harry
Flip
Belafonte
Wilson,
was in there as well.
Roscoe Lee Brown.
Yeah.
Like, that had an all-star cast.
Yeah, and then they had a second part, Let's Do It Again, part 2. Yeah, so even though like blaxploitation kind of like has this, this kind of look when you talk about it, it was heavy hitters that was in there. That was kind of like setting the tone. And also, not only that, kind of like setting the tone for modern day filmmaking, because blaxploitation is kind of like what pushed Robert Townsend, who was like the next big producer in line to kind of like usher in black talent, who was kind of like, they helped Bill Cosby kind of move forward, which kind of like pushed, not Damon Wayne, but Keenan Wayne, who was more of our generation when we started coming into like the late 80s. So I guess kind of goes back to what you're saying. Did blaxploitation kind of die? No, I think it kind of like just morphed into something else.
Cause I was gonna say I remember too, like my fascination, and I guess because of my dad, was martial arts. So I remember, getting up, going to the movie theaters on Saturdays, watch kung fu movies at the local cinema house. But I remember my mind was blown, and of course, the movie had come out before I was born. But when I saw Enter the Dragon and I saw Jim Kelly, I was like, wait a minute. Now I've been seeing these, these little Asian guys doing all the kung fu and karate. Who is that dude right there? Like, that's my guy. I want to be him. Jim Kelly. And he dropped several blaxploitation movies himself, Black Belt Jones and Black Samurai. Remember Three the Hard Way?
Three the Hard Way. Yeah.
But again, another thing about representation, and I think you're right about where it morphed, because I love Robert Townsend. When I was younger, I want to say 90s maybe, whatever, I loved watching Hollywood Shuffle. Hollywood Shuffle, to me, it just, and Hollywood Shuffle is full of, black stars who, eventually made it and became some. But Robert Townsend, Keenan Ivory Wayans, and the whole Wayans family, In Living Color, our cinema morphed. The problem is because, I love the fact that they got it out the mud. They, started from the bottom. Now they're here. But did that hurt us or help us? Because what it seemed like it morphed into was a bunch of hood movies. So you go from Blaxploitation, pimps, hoes, drug dealers, gun battles. And then in the 90s, when gangster rap becomes a thing, we fall into hood movies. And you do have some hood movies that have a purpose, have a point. But not all of them can be Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
Boys in the Hood, South Central, Don't Be a Menace. I mean, not Don't Be a Menace, but Menace to Society. Not all of them. I mean, even New Jack City, which is more, it's not really a hood movie. I mean, it was shot by Mario Van Peebles, so to continue the tradition of his father with Sweetback's Badass song.
That's the name of it, Sweetback's Badass. I always get the sweets mixed in. It's like it's the Sweetback, sweets. There's a lot of sweetness going on in that title. But go ahead, man, my bad.
No, but and so we had some quality hood movies, but then we got to the point where they're just churning out any hood movie that, to get $1. And now we're at the point where you said that now you can go online. You can make your own movies on YouTube, on TikTok. You can, you got the latest Samsung, and I guess for you quote people, Apple, iPhone, whatever. You can, but the cameras in those are good enough. You can make a movie in your phone. You have a supercomputer in your pocket. You can shoot a movie in your phone. There's apps where you can edit the whole movie. You can do a complete movie through your phone. There's apps to give you a little lavalier mic for sound, and there's ring lights and all types of little LED lights to give you lighting and stuff. And hell, if you were so inclined, you could go to YouTube and take a couple tutorials, watch a couple videos on how to improve those things and do better.
Yeah.
But has that made black cinema specifically? Has that made it better?
I think you can't have growth without growing pains. And for every good one that you love, there's going to be at least 10 more that's going to make you question, why are we doing this? And I think the modern day version of that is like TikTok, right? It's a bunch of just barely watchable stuff. For me, I know I'm a generation removed from being able to truly understand it. But I'm like, this is not good visual entertainment to me at all. Because the access, so many people have access to it that you're just gonna get a whole bunch of just bleh and trash kind of like go along.
Yeah, but I mean, like I remember, so it's one of those things too about our attention span has changed so much. Like I remember, God, I'm trying to show my age. I remember when Vine came along was the biggest thing. People were shooting content that only lasted 6 seconds. Like, how? I done barely got a thought out in 6 seconds. Well, this is what we're going to cut. Like, wait, what? Yeah. And they were shooting whole content, quick. And now we have, YouTube Shorts, we have Reels, we have all these things, TikTok, because our attention span is not that long. I mean, I remember when we were coming up too, songs were like a typical song, like 4 minutes. You know, 4.5 minutes. It's a typical song. Nowadays, a typical song is 2 minutes, and that's a long song. Yeah. They'll give you, what's it? I Just Wanna Rock, Lil Uzi Vert. Was it Lil Uzi or whatever? It gave us I Just Wanna Rock, and there was a minute and a half, like 2 minutes tops, minute and a half. He gave you a verse and a chorus. Done.
Yeah. So, but it makes you wonder, it's like, well, is the music industry, you know, is it gone? Is it worth it? Is it a detriment to it? You know, it's the same thing. It's kind of like going on with movies. I think a lot of it has to do with, I am at that age where I am sitting on my rocking chair shaking my cane at these kids. Because I don't get it, and I don't feel like it moves the culture forward, but it is. It's just, we just don't want to admit it because we don't get it. You know?
But we don't have any choice, you know what I'm saying? Everyone ages. Yeah. And when I was coming along and I liked hood movies and NWA and all that, my mom didn't get it. Yeah. Because she came from a different generation. She's like, what is this hibbity-hobbity trash? Like, that part. I can't even understand what they're saying.
That part,
I was like, Mama, you just old.
Yeah.
And now, that's what my kids say to me. They're like, Dad, you just old, dad. You don't get it. And I was like, wait. I was like, hold on. But I do this. I do this. Like, what do you mean? I was like, hold on, stop, hold on. Play that part right there back. I was like, you know what? Now I back up. What he say? My kids were like, Dad, you just don't get it. I mean, no. You don't get it either. You like it because everybody else likes it. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? And really, the producers are the ones who's winning, because I can understand. Yeah. These producers got some fire, hot beats these days. But these kids, they'll put anything on top of it and be like, that's a hit. I'm like, you mean to tell me that's a hit because they got a catchy little beat? But dude actually said Gucci Gang for 2 minutes straight. What?
Yeah, but it's
like, I want somebody to check on him. I thought he was having a seizure or something. I was like, somebody check on little dude. Gucci gang.
But listen, it all morphs into something else.
Poor little tink.
Listen, when Cab Calloway came out and was in that was my dad's generation. I'll be quick to point it out. I'll be like, listen, that's what sparked Bone. It's the same thing. It's just a different generation, which is now, little
I remember my mama asked me. My mama asked me. I remember my mama asked me. She said, "What is EI?" I said, "The vowels. What do you mean?" She said, "Well, why you keep saying EI? I was like, "Oh."
It's the same history. The wheel keeps it turning, right? It's just their variation of stuff is just crazy and wild. Like me and my dad had this argument because he's a huge jazz head, loves jazz. It's like, and there's interesting things about jazz where you'll take old bits and riffs from other things that you've heard, and freestyle it into the music. And he'll sit there, and I remember when I was a huge, Fear of a Black Planet was one of my favorite albums because of we're talking about Public Enemy, and and I'm sitting there, listening to some of the mixing that's going on with the DJs and stuff. And my dad is like, I don't understand that. Why are you over there playing the same song bits and pieces over and over again? And it's like, it's a variation of jazz. It's just a different version that you just don't agree with because it's been transformed and morphed into something else. Breaks, playing breaks over and over and over again, which forms, what sparked like the turntable battles of doing that cool thing over there. It's no different than jazz. It's just a freestyling of familiar pieces of music and turning it in and repurposing it. It's the wheel keeps on turning, and what we're seeing now is happening, with kind of like the same thing with like this TikTok generation or this Vine generation or whatever it is, that they're taking bits and pieces of things that they only like, and redefining what that means. That's what we're in, and we just don't get it. We know the wheel is turning, but we're rejecting it because Maybe because we weren't the ones that did it, and maybe the younger generations are the ones that did. Or
here's the interesting thing though, because I was thinking about when I went through my militant, my Black consciousness stage, and I was heavy into Public Enemy. I didn't listen to Poor Righteous Teachers that much, PRT, but X-Clan, Paris, like I was militant as hell. And I was just, and I was again, early 90s, you know what I'm saying, going through that thing of where like I got old enough to understand and realize what racism was, and just, I was, I had first time, setting foot in Kentucky, and I was like, there was a lot of stuff going on here, because I was a military brat, so California kid, military brat. So once we got settled and I got in Kentucky with my mom after the divorce, like, bro, I was like, oh, I'm not going for this shit. I don't care if this is y'all status quo out here. This not how I was raised. Somebody about to get their shit rocked. Like, feel your muffin cap back blue. Like, but I remember trying to explain that music to my mother, and I was like, well, in your generation, you had, the Black Panthers, and certain artists, jazz artists and stuff that were militant, in a way or whatever. And I said, this kind of same thing. I said, it's the same thing. I said, these songs, these albums, these artists represent the same thing, but a different era. And I said, it's kind of sad that history does tend to repeat itself so much, and that the same stuff goes on. Like whatever you was going through in the 60s, turn around, show right back up in the, in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, like it's all the same stuff. And we're almost back to that again. That which is old is new again. And it's crazy because now, where my parents were with me, that's where I'm at now. The problem is that I can also see now, with a little bit of wisdom, how I played into the detriment of Black cinema and Black music. Because whatever that lowest common denominator, that low-hanging fruit, yeah, I grabbed that off the tree willingly. You know what I'm saying? That young age when I didn't know any better, I can't say there weren't better alternatives out there, but I wasn't exposed to them. They weren't being made readily available. So I did grab a lot of trash. Yes, it was me, BET Uncut. They played Tip Drill 75 million times.
And you couldn't tell me nothing about it either at the time.
Yeah, OJ the Juice Man, yep.
Yeah.
They played that trash because I watched it a lot.
Yeah, I have certainly played my part. I think I know, to kind of come circle again. I think that there'll probably be another era of a type of Blaxploitation. I think we're kind of seeing it now more so, not even necessarily Blaxploitation, but just people of color in general on a global scale with the international movement that you're seeing. You're seeing
like Nollywood, Nigerian
you're seeing
film,
the wheel turn again, but it's just turning in a different country. And you hit the nail right on the head. Nollywood is going bananas right now, and it's it's the spark. Nollywood is like it's like hip hop in New York back in like the early 80s, late 70s. It's sparking movements across the continent. But
not only that, they have a platform for it. You know what I'm saying? All those Nollywood movies are straight to Tubi. I think they'd take a Nollywood movie before they take one of our movies or whatever. Man. Like Tubi is getting it in. A lot of, especially the writer's strike.
Yeah.
Netflix had a whole lot of Nollywood stuff on it.
Yo, you hit something that I think is very important, and that is the new Blaxploitation is Tubi. That, if you want to see where Blaxploitation is, and it is alive and well in Tubi, because there's a lot of stuff I just can't watch. I just can't watch. But I would be remiss to say that it's not the voice of whoever it is that's piecing it together. It is a voice. And it is speaking to somebody's experience. Either I've aged out or I'm just disconnected with the younger culture enough for me to not necessarily get it. But I'll be down if I'm gonna sit here and say that it doesn't serve its purpose, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so once again, it gets back, the reel keeps on turning, you know? Tubi is insane and it's spreading like wildfire. I think just in the same way that Blaxploitation was, you know, in the early 70s. So here we are again.
Well, and then not only Tubi though, because Tubi is a, you know, major platform like, you know, like Roku and some of the other apps, streaming networks. But the internet has also given voice to many people starting their own networks online. So if you want to, like, you take all the trashy, terrible shows that we used to watch on VH1, you know, all the love and hip hops and the, you know, housewives of whatever, all that type stuff. But let's ramp it up by 10, you know, and let's see how ratchet we can really make it. And then you get to something called the Zeus Network, where, dude, what? And like Zeus Network, he only charges like, I think $5 for a monthly subscription. You know, and he puts out the most ratchet stuff, but I mean, he's doing numbers. He's doing big numbers because it's the Zeus Network, Tubi. Ray J just dropped his own network, and he's like, oh, you think you can take all the ratchet stuff, Zeus? Let me show you some. You know what I'm saying? You know how like they say, you say, oh, well, you do this? Oh, hold my beer. You know what I'm saying? Ray J's like, hold my cognac. You know what I'm saying? Hold my yak. Hold my Henny. And so the internet is also making a space for, I don't know, even still Blaxploitation, because now it's just, gotten.
I think it is.
It's, I don't know. It almost seems like it's at the point now where we need to give it a new name. It's off.
It's not for the faint of heart, man. It is not. Like, if you are snooty holding your wine glass, I do not recommend heading over into those waters until you put some gins on and some something that you don't mind getting dirty, because your visual palette is going to be tested.
It's almost the kind of thing like it's like if you went over somebody's house and they had that on and you sat down, you're like, what is this? It's like, oh, I just put it on Tubi and hold on, I'll be right back. I'm gonna finish getting dressed. And you sit there and watch it for a few minutes. When they come back in the room, be like, okay, I'm ready to go. You're gonna get up, slap the shit out of them, and be like, you know what? We're no longer friends. If this is the type of shit you watch, we're no longer friends. I'm out. Like, that's.
They love it, bro. They love it.
But they love it.
They love it.
You know, and that kind of and I guess we've been talking for a while, so I want to stick a pin in it, thinking about it like this. I think we've had these same conversations, because really the initial conversation was, or the initial question was, where did our cinema go? And I don't even know what is our cinema anymore. Like, I can't expect Nia DaCosta and Alicia Green and Ryan Coogler to make all the movies. Like, where is the stuff that speaks to us as a people and uplifts? And I'm not saying that you have to do some inspirational, you know, church movies, faith-based church movies, but where's the projects that give us hope, that give us inspiration, that make us feel better about ourselves? Why is it the things that, and again, I'm still guilty of some of these things. Why do we gravitate towards power? And all the stuff that, you know, if you don't like what Tyler Perry's making, well, 50 Cent is making some stuff. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm watching it.
So am I. Because I like the power verse. I can admit it. I like the power. The power verse is fun to me. But
BMF. Like,
I can admit it.
I do.
No.
Again, still contributing to it. But so that being said, like, where is the space? 'Cause we've had these conversations. Like you look at other creators
Okay.
on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are some other YouTube creators out there that do something similar to what I mean, of course, they don't do what we do because we do it better than anybody. We like Wolverine. I'm the best there is at what I do. You heard me? But there's other people that are getting numbers. And if you sit and watch their content for a few minutes, it's like, this is trash. Like, surface level conversations that, like, it's like they're doing reactions to shows and movies. Be like, do you even like movies and TV shows? Because I don't. What are y'all talking about? But us holding the line to have real conversations and look for the deeper meaning, and our numbers are not where they should be. And that's not about jealousy or envy. It's just about kind of what you said. Like maybe, yeah, we are a little bit of hoity-toity or whatever. Because I can't turn into the villain, or start throwing out wild ass takes on movies and TV shows that we watch just for clicks. I cannot do it. To me, respect for the cinema, respect for the craft is at the point where I'm going to give you my honest opinion on this. And I surmise from the best of my ability, this is what I thought about this. This is what I think it's about. This is, when you come to this channel, I pull a little something deeper out of this thing that some creator gave us. So, of course, we lean on our devoted followings that, on your channel, on this channel, to share and subscribe and whatever. But I don't know. I don't want to play the comparison game. But, I mean, again, we're in a different creator space. We are now creators, just like your Tyler Perry's or your whoever, you say whatever you want. But we are creating content as well. But we're also struggling. It's almost like, the devil holding you, know what I'm saying? Do you want to be good? Or do you want to be paid?
Woo, boy, see, listen, that is why you tune in. That is why you're over here on New from Ville, because you're going to get a deeper understanding of the bigger picture. A lot of people just come in and just fly by night over it real quick and be like, yeah, there's this thing, we dig in. Rakai digs in. Rakai tells you how he feels in a way that you can connect with him. That's why this is necessary, because we are fans of the craft. Absolute, complete fans. And, we got a little bit of wisdom on us as compared to the competition. So you get a chance to see something that's been well thought out and well digested, so that we can hopefully give you a better way of looking at the things that you love and enjoy when it comes to cinema and television. Thank you, Rakai. Thank you for being the tip of the spear of this, because there is I don't even come close to the depth and how personalized these conversations are. You definitely take me to school when I come into these conversations to be like, okay, maybe I need to start exposing this more than this a little bit. You're a master of both, man. So please do yourself a favor and recommend this channel. Share it. Talk about it and being like, hey, you all want, I know these two brothers, and one in particular, Rakai, he'll take that thing that you love and have you spin it around and like, I didn't even see it from this angle. It's important that you share. Thank you, Rakai, for allowing me to be on your platform, man. Thank you.
He's so nice. And again, I was afforded this opportunity. I started this channel years ago, and just life got in the way, and I let it go. And really, when I really should have been rocking it, I could have been somewhere else if I'd stayed with it, but life gets in the way. And I got the opportunity to start making some content with my brother, with Charles and Randy, and even Centels, where I met him at the Geekish Network, and again, some intelligent, educated brothers who are concerned about the culture, and they're making things over at the Geekish Network and trying to grow again. And we do this little show called Binge Worthy every Wednesday night at 11 Eastern, where we watch an entire series and watching the show and do a deep dive on it, tell you whether you should watch it or not. And through that, collaborations with those good brothers, I was able to start making some content with Centel, and he brought me on for a guest spot, and I guess it just kind of stuck, and I've been around doing a few things with him ever since. So I want to acknowledge, and you have to give people their flowers. And I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for Centel. I give all the love in the world to my brother Chuck and to Randy for getting me kind of back on the internet. But the person who's really given me an opportunity and continues to push me, and I push him right back so that we can get better. Because, I figure if I can help him get to superstardom and get one of those plaques on his wall in the back, then maybe I'll end up having my own plaque on the wall behind me, or something besides. I don't even know what that is on the wall behind me. But listen, we don't even talk about that. Well, I'm gonna get into my own little studio space. You're gonna see it's gonna be fantastic. But that shall come too. But I do owe a lot to Centel, and I love what we do on his channel and all of the fabulous co-hosts he has with him. The magnificent Michael Clare. I can't say enough about him. See, she's wonderful. And then if you didn't know it, he also has another channel called Cinema Mosaic, where he's doing a lot of, because we're into, we're blurs. We're into a lot of stuff. So a lot of South Korean content on Cinema Mosaic, his international channel. And he shoots a lot of stuff with the fantastic Summer Punch. So, dude, if anything, this dude is a Spengali. He knows how to spot some talent. I'm not saying I'm talented. I'm definitely not going to say I ain't. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining on this journey with us. And let me, before I close it out, let Centel get a few words in so he can tell you all about himself and his channels. Because if you didn't know, I assume that everyone who's here, subscriber here, was a subscriber first to his channel. But if you just happen to find me, you don't know about him, listen, let me tell you, you need to check him out.
Oh, brother, thank you so much. Hey, man, I can be easily reached. It's just at youtube.com/Centel. We do movie television reactions, like I was saying, in the blurred space. And then we also have the international channel as well, youtube.com/Cinema Mosaic. Right now, it is South Korean heavy because we love South Korean cinema. Love it. But we are going to start branching out into other areas in the cinematic lexicon. I sound hoity-toity saying that lexicon. It's my Jeopardy word for the day. Leave me alone.
It's a good word. It's a good word.
So some of you have time, and you just want to get another dose of Bukai.
Listen, people can be hood and expand their vocabulary. No, when they said they probably talking about a car. You see that new lexicon? It got 20s on it.
Come on over. It's good fun. You'll get a good laugh. Thank you.
All right, and to everyone, if you have not already done so, hit the like button. Drop some comments in there, because one thing we didn't do here, but we want to do with you through the comments. Since we were talking about where has Black cinema gone, suggest some other good movies now. Movies that you can go out and watch right now. You can get them on DVD, you can stream them. Watch other good movies for people to watch, not only for them to watch, but for us. And we might do a review or reaction on Centel channel or something. Suggest other movies so that we can, iron sharpens iron. We need to make each other better. So, you know, I don't know what to watch if you don't tell me what to watch. If you don't say, hey, on my mama, this is good right here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to tell us. I don't know. He got me to watch this movie, Arrival. I had never seen it before. Listen, I don't know who was in the room cutting onions or something, but I was like, you know what? Ooh, I felt like Denzel in Glory. Like, I thought, oh, okay. Like, you got to expand your palette. So put some good movies in the comments. Hit the like button. Of course, as always, subscribe. Hit the little bell icon. I can't even tell you nothing about the algorithm, but hit the bell icon and share this. Thank y'all for coming out. Until next time.